Good afternoon. It's me, Ask Dr. Renee, and here we are at blackdoctor.org. In case you haven't been watching this week, it is National Infertility Awareness Week. So every day since Monday, we have had a show about infertility. And today is no different. Today, though, we have happy stories about infertility and the journey that some of us have taken and where it has led to. Tomorrow, I want to remind you guys, tomorrow is the Minority Health Summit from 12 to 5 here at blackdoctor.org, 12 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. And they have covering all sorts of health issues that pertain to us. So you don't want to miss that. And of course, at 4 o'clock, I will do the last installment of the National Infertility Awareness Week. We're actually going to talk to a pharmacist about the medications that are involved in this process. So I need you all to please share. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And don't forget, if you have questions, to type them in the chat. I will do my best to get them answered. And make sure you share. Sharing is caring. And I know you know somebody. And if you don't know somebody, somebody else knows somebody. So it would be so kind if you just shared it, right? And we're on several different platforms. And I'm noticing that we are missing one. And I'm going to click on that now. There we go. So please share away. And I am so excited to have this chat this evening. We are missing one person. If you noticed the flyer, we had 3 and we're missing 1. And the one person, she had to tend her babies. So unfortunately, she couldn't make it today, but she might come in later. We'll see. But you guys, please welcome my guests. We have, and I'm going to take them off mute. We have Dr. Shirley Leon. And you've seen her before on Black Doctor. She is a nephrologist, so she came on when we were talking about kidney disease last month. And then we have Miss Latoya Dixon. And Latoya, this is her first time here. But we're going to have them tell their stories, and we're going to have a lovely conversation. So, Dr. Shirley, let's start with your story.
My story.
Yeah.
So I'm a single mom by choice, which means that I decided to go ahead and have a baby on my own using donor sperm. That decision was made in 2017, the summer of. I was about to turn 40, and I was not in a relationship. A relationship actually just ended, and I was starting to think about the regret that I would have if I did not pursue motherhood. Spoke to a couple of people. I had a friend in high school who was a single mom by choice. She was, I think, thinking about having her second child at that time. And during her journey, I was very supportive and encouraging of her, but I never thought that it would be for me. It never entered my mind. So then I made the decision in the summer. By the fall, I decided to move back home because you have to like plan and arrange for all these things. It's emotionally taxing, it's financially taxing. So I wanted to prep. So I moved back home and started the process. Oh, the process. The process is
Now, when
both
you say move
scary.
back home, you left another state to go back?
Well, I was in New York, but I moved back to my family home, like to
Gotcha.
be at home with my mom and
Yeah.
get support and save and do all those things. And then started the process of like going to see a reproductive endocrinologist to get the workup, because again, like I said, I'm a physician, right? So I know what fertility means or infertility means. And I know that with advanced age, it declines. So I went and started to do the workup. And during the workup, we discovered that I did have a medical condition that would prevent me from or decrease my chances of getting pregnant. And again, because I was waiting to meet that person and was waiting to get married and have the baby. If I didn't decide to do this at this time, I would have like really, really, truly missed my window to have my child. Yeah. And so went through the fertility process. I don't know how much you want to go into that. It's very taxing, like the injections and the ultrasounds and the early mornings. And again, because I was doing it alone, right? So the emotional aspect of it, like coming to terms with what it means for you, especially if you had envisioned in a certain way. So I had to really tap into my support system, my friends, and I'm very open. So I shared with almost everyone that knew me. And people, different people received it different ways. And honestly, I wasn't asking for permission, because I don't need that.
I love it.
Yeah. I was, and they know me. My friends in my network, they know me. And once I make up my mind, it's pretty much made up.
Well,
But I
go
do
back to
like,
your mom. What did your mom say?
yes. So I am of Caribbean descent, raised Christian, Baptist, then non-denominational. My mom is a wonderful person, but again, old school. She's like, "What are you talking about? What's this sperm thing? Like, what's IVF?" Guys, I had to go to YouTube, pull up a video of like the science, like I had to because I had to like help her mind.
But
She
didn't your
couldn't
mother give birth to you
listen.
and your
What did I tell you
sister?
about what did I tell you about these Caribbean? It was fun. It was fun. But she was very supportive. She was, nervous for me, but she knew that because I was always very maternal. And I think she knew that if I didn't seek this out, like I would really, really have regretted it. And honestly, if I want to really go back, and that summer I was depressed, like severe depression, because I thought my window was really closing or disappearing. And so she was concerned and she saw the desire. And so she really supported me. Yeah. So, but the family was very supportive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll let you pause there. Latoya,
Yeah.
now
Thank
tell
you.
us your story.
Okay, so I was in high school and I was diagnosed with PCOS. Everyone knows it's
Ah,
polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so, of course, I get on the birth control pill. I'm thinking everything's under control. In August of 99, I had a laparoscopy. So I'm like, okay, great. In my mind, if you have had PCOS, you're thinking, okay, this is the reason for my weight gain. This is all, my world's going to change. Everything's going to reverse. I'm going to go look like everyone else. It doesn't happen. My body doesn't modify as much as I wanted it to. So I'm in college. And of course, we go to college for degrees, but sometimes we also want the MRS, but that didn't
mhm.
happen for me. I knew I always wanted to be an attorney since I was like age 5. So I knew I was going to go to law school. And of course, I dated someone long term, but that didn't work out. You fast forward, I'm like 30. I remember being 30 years old and having a party, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna be married and have children, and everything by 35. Now I said that when I was 20, and I'm gonna be 25. But nonetheless, just pushing along, focus on my career, never actually meeting the right one where I determined I'm going to get married and have children. But ironically, even when I was younger, I always said I wanted to get married, have a white picket fence, house, and all that, and have 2 children by birth, well, biologically, and then 1 adopted. I always wanted to adopt a child, and I always wanted to be in the middle, so the child wouldn't feel like, okay, they have a big brother, a younger sibling, or something of that nature, and that didn't happen. So I am about 39 at that time. And I'm in 444, the impact program at Urban League. And I'm like telling her, I want to have a child. I want to have a child. So one of the members is telling me, like, okay, girl, you better start. I'm like, I know. In 2015, I looked at my numbers and they were pretty low. And she's like, it's 2018, 2019. Girl, what are you waiting on? I'm like, I know I am. Because in your mind, despite what's happening with your body and everyone telling you things, you can point out a million people who are getting pregnant, even if
Mhm.
they're like,
Mhm. You're right.
so and so did that, or no big deal. She's 50, first round IVF, bam, she's done. And you're thinking, well, I won't be the exception. Of course not. And you are. So I go through my IVF treatments. I remember going to Dr. Whit Molo at Rush's office and with my mother. My mother's always been my big supporter, my support network. And she's sitting to my right, and my mother's listening intently. So, I mean, she's taking notes, meticulous notes. She's already been on
That's a good
WebMD.
advocate. I always say you should take somebody with you to the doctor because you may
That's
miss half
very
the stuff
true.
they say.
Because I'm all emotionally wrapped, like I'm trying to hit the goal.
Exactly.
My mother's like, and I have another question, and another question. I was like, okay, will you stop? So she's asking all these questions. She turns to me when the doctor leaves out. She said, Latoya, I think you should do a surrogate. I'll pay for the surrogate. I'm like, no, I want, because at the time, what was really popular too, not to sound vain, was the photo ops with your belly and the baby and the two. Oh, you want it all, right? The big dream. And so my mother's like, I said, no, mommy, I want to try it myself. And she's like, Latoya, it's a lot. It's going to be taxing on your body. I'm like, I don't care. I want to try it. I'll try it. So do unsuccessful IUR. My mom's there with me the entire time. My cousin Janelle, she's like a sister to me. We raised together. I do 3 rounds of IVF, unsuccessful. I'm hitting 2019. Now, after, in between that, like September, a friend of mine approaches my mother actually. He knew that I had been trying to become a mom, and I was actually considering adoption at that time. I was just had one foot in, just trying to put my hand in everything, like anything to get the dream of motherhood. And so he called her and he said, I have a young lady who is in my office. she's pregnant, and they told her she'd have a stillborn baby. Come to find out, she's actually just went into labor, and she's had the baby, and the baby's healthy. She hadn't told her parents, but she wants to get the baby up for adoption. Long story short, I'm in the NICU with this baby for like 2 weeks straight. We get into adoption court, and she pulls out, decides she wants to keep her baby.
Oh no, no.
It was traumatic.
No, this is why adoption scares the crap out of me, because this
It's
isn't the
traumatic.
first
It's
story
like
I've
a
heard.
lifetime movie. It's like a lifetime movie.
I
kid
heard
you not,
another
you
story
not.
like that. I had another friend. They started a Facebook group to care, take us through the journey. So they showed us their little book or whatever to show, to show the expectant moms that this is them in case they would like to give their child up to them. And then they told us we have to pick, and a mom picked us. Great. Then, and the pictures of her was on the page too. And then she had a baby. It was another state. Flew to where that was. And then baby born. They're staying at a hotel. Baby staying with them. And after whatever the period was, she changed her mind. They picked up, went home by themselves. I was like, no, Jesus. My heart broke like it was mine.
It can be a difficult process, and you try to witness this. And long story short, I end up adopting through the cradle. But it's a difficult process because you have to understand that there is a woman and maybe a man with her who loves this child. And for whatever reason, whatever the circumstances may have presented themselves, they are willing to say, I don't want to abort, which is nothing wrong with it. I don't want to abort, but I would like to give this child a better life than what I can give. So I like to bless someone else. And so that's how we look at it. And here in Illinois, we have a 72-hour waiting period. So if the baby is born at 1:05 today, you have 72 hours, 1:05 before the parent can even relinquish parental rights because they're in an emotional state and so forth. So the adoption counselor always told me, be cautiously optimistic, prepare, but understand that during that period of time, that baby is still hers. It is not yours until that dotted line is signed. And it's unfortunate because I don't know how about other states operate, but that's how it is in Illinois. So I selected to go with the cradle. The cradle has named after Gail Sayers, the Sayers Center for African American Adoption. So they specialize in African American adoption.
And Gail Sayers, that's that movie with Billy D.
Yeah. They specialize in African American adoption, and they in cultural competency as well. So we did the general classes for training and so forth that any adoptive parent would do, but also the cultural competency, which is very important, particularly if you never know if you're going to get a child that's 100% African American, which we don't know if anybody's ever 100% African American, right?
Gotcha.
So you may get a child that's biracial, and how do you help to preserve that child's cultural identity? Because that's very critical in the up, right? So we had that training, and then we also had we did training on openness because it's encouraged now. Before with adoption, back in our day, it would be closed adoption. People wouldn't find out they were adopted if they are at all until they were 67 years old. And you realize, wait, so Renee's really not my sister, and so forth. It's open adoption, and the way open adoption works is basically you determine what you're willing to accept in the open agreement. So mine was quarterly, meaning I was willing to meet with the biological birth mother and any of her family members that she wanted present to be around the child. Right. And so we'll do that. And she was open to seasonal. So the way that the adoption process works, so I'll go back, you fill out your application, do all your extensive background checks, and then you get into the adoption pool. Well, I entered the adoption pool right before COVID. And we all thought it's going to be a big baby boom. Everybody's at home. They're making love. They had nothing to do, blah, blah, and bam. And it did not happen. It was like the lowest birth rate in like 30 years. So the cradle was very good about giving us monthly updates. This is how many babies we've had come through and so forth, adopted, or that were proceeding and then fell through, whatever it was. And I'm just like, come on, I already felt like I was at a disadvantage of being a single mother. Because I was like, I understand that people look and they say, well, if I have to check the odds and look and see how many household, I just want two parents. If it just X people up, I get it. So fast forward to November. And my profile, the profiles are online if you want them to be. So one of mine's online on the site, as well as we make these books, like a photo book, so to speak, a certified book, telling your story. And my story actually was, the theme of it was, it takes a village. So you got to see my career, my personal support network, where I live, what my daily life was, and knew that if you selected me to be the adoptive parent of the child, what type of life it would be, and though I'm a single mother, my great support network that will step up to help me in raising and supporting the child, loving the child. So I was presented in November, and there was a young couple and they didn't select me. And I went crazy. This is unfair. No one's ever going to select me. They don't never choose a single mom. This is discrimination. Well, I'm just going on. And so Nalay, who's the vice president of development over there, and she's adopted as well. She's adopted a son. And she said, Latoya, the baby that's for you is for you. And she would tell me that all the time. When I tell you, it would just make me, I don't want to hear that. I'm going in the mall. I see people with babies, twins. I see people who don't want babies having babies. This is unfair. I'm going ballistic. I mean, it was to the point, honestly, that I could not go into a space and there was gonna be a baby. I knew that it was gonna have a toll on me. And one day I was talking to one of my sorority sisters, Stacy. She does the what is the group?
Fertility for Color Girls.
And I'm on the phone talking to her, and she said, Latoya, you have not processed. And I was like, what? And this was like after I was like in the middle of my adoption process, and she said, you haven't processed. Each time that you had a failed IUI or IVF treatment, that was a traumatic experience. You didn't process it because most times we don't. We're so focused on the goal of getting there, or we're just telling our doctor, set us up for the next one, because we're assuming we're going to hit the goal. And she's like, and women like, I don't say us, like me, I guess I'll stereotype myself, type A, like, she's like, you never had the plan B. She's like, so in your mind, you're like, this is going to work. It has to work because this is the way I know it's supposed to be. It's like, and so you haven't even processed. She said, just listen to what you're saying and your verbiage and how you're talking. They've done it. So I was like, so I had to go through and regroup in my mind and say, you're going to bring a child in. You want to come in a healthy environment. You need to actually take care of this mentally before you actually process. The fact that as a woman, as a Black woman, as a woman who's everyone else around you is having children, every family member has never had a problem, and you're the one, and you're sort of like, why me type of thing. And so you, I honestly can't say I've ever gotten over it, but you process it in a more healthier way. So fast forward to December, I'm headed to St. Croix for using my vacation. And I get a call saying, hey, we have a potential match for you if you be open in Central Illinois. And I said, sure, fine. They present me the profile of the birth mother and all the details that they have. And I said, sure, I'd like to. But they present you with 7 other families. So she's presented 8 options. I said, okay, I'm going to pray on it, go to St. Croix, come back. And my adoption counselor was supposed to come for our annual walkthrough. And she said, well, instead of a walkthrough, I want to change and see. I thought she was going to cancel, reschedule. Okay, fine. She said, because you want to do a match meeting? I was like, excuse me? And she's like, a match meeting. I said, she selected me? She's like, yeah. I was like, ah. So we drove down there. I didn't tell anyone. The difference with her, I will say, I took a different approach. I didn't tell anyone. Before, I was like, I got a baby coming. I was sharing. And it's not oversharing because it really depends, because everyone has the best intention. Girl, when's the baby getting here? Blah, blah. And you're like, oh, that didn't pan out. So you have more people asking questions. And I don't do well with people in my business list. I want you to be in it. That's how mother says it. So I only want you in it when she wants you in it. That's true. So ultimately, I only told my mother. I didn't tell my aunt, my dad, because there's no one. I then asked one of my sorority sisters, who was my chapter chaplain, could she ride with us? She didn't even know why she was going. She got in the car. We on the way down to Champaign, and we're talking. I said, let me tell you why you're here. She said, girl, are you serious? I was like, yes. So before I got out the car, she prayed with me, and her mother went on to wherever, and I met the birth mother, kicked it off, and she said I was the very first profile she looked at, and she said, this is who I want. And then her sister, who was her supporting network, looked at all 8 and came back here and said, I like her the best, and it was me. So she had the baby. I met her on the 16th. She went into labor on the 17th. I went down there on the 18th, and I came back with Kennedy on the 20th. And she's been with me. Long story short story long.
So how many months is she now?
She is 4 months, made 4 months on Easter. Yes, 4 months on Easter. Yes. I told her, I said, I think she's tired of these little photo shoots I've been giving her. So she hid the little wheel that has 3 months and 4 months. So I couldn't find it on the 4-month days. We'll do a reenactment. She'll be fine. I was like, you're going to give me what I want. I want it all. So, yeah.
Right. Of course. No, that is lovely. And so Shirley, tell the rest of your story as well. Finish off your story.
Oh, no, this was beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
It was.
It was beautiful. What did I leave off? So the IVF process, again, even as a physician, getting the shock of like remembering the science of it. Like, you know how you said, like, we expect things to work out and you expect your body to do what it's supposed to do. So actually, my first cycle of IVF did not take. And I was devastated. I was like terrified because, again, I hit that 40-year-old mark and I know what that means.
Well, how
And
many
so,
eggs did you start out with?
okay. So, yes, very good
Yeah,
question.
that bit,
So,
that part.
right. So, initially, for the first cycle, I had 11 mature eggs. They fertilized 4 that were able to fertilize, and only 1 was able to be implanted. And
Okay.
that one did not take in my first cycle.
Okay.
For the second cycle, I had 15 retrieved, 11 were mature, 9 were fertilized, and 3 made it to embryos. And guess what your girl did? Yeah, I put all 3 in. Yeah. And that's how bad I wanted this. And it was dangerous. It was dangerous. My doctor and I talked, and he spoke with me physician to physician, risk taker to, like, it was a dangerous thing to do. But again, I wanted it bad. I ended up having twins, but one did not make it. So I ended up with my little girl who's 3 and 4 months right now. Yeah. But again, like I said, it's a process. Like you were saying, Latoya, it's like the grieving, even for me, like the first cycle not taking, having, putting 3 in and, only 1 making it. Again, I call her my gift. And just as recently as this past November, I had from a third cycle I did because I wanted to give her a sibling. I had 1 embryo left on ice, and I attempted that cycle and it did not take. And I'm at peace with that. But I also I want it all, right? I want a sibling. I want my how many number of kids and my picket fence. So yeah, again, I think it's important that we continue to talk about infertility or fertility, because a lot of us who are the type A's, the professional women who are out there making a difference and giving to others, we may miss our window. But again, I love the fact that we can rewrite our window. We can choose the life that we want.
Yeah.
And so I have no regrets. My hashtags are no regrets.
Yeah.
No regrets.
Yeah. That is awesome. Go ahead.
No, so that's a beautiful story.
Yeah. So, and I think that, you have time. She could have a sibling. You might adopt.
No, adoption is definitely on the table. That's why when I was taking notes when
No, it's crazy because when you so not that it mattered, but I was like, look, I'm writing this check, whatever it is. Now, with the Sayers Center for African American Adoption, is slightly cheaper than the regular domestic adoption. But then I have friends who are paying even more than the regular domestic. And it can just range, right? But something I realized for individuals who are adopting, doing interstate adoption for Texas is the best case, best example. I didn't understand at first, and I was in my middle of the night thinking in my break brain or whatever. And I said, ding, ding, ding. They're anti-abortion state. And because they're anti-abortion state, that's why so many babies are adopted from Texas to the interstate. Because the birth mother only has 2 options: raise a child or put the child up for adoption.
Well, Oklahoma has just signed on to this foolishness as well.
See, watch Oklahoma increase. I noticed it looking at the foster care to adopt stats. Well, that's interesting. But then most recently, I was speaking to someone and they were attempting adoption through the Angel Network. And she said all 4 of the babies that was presented to her were African American, and they were within the same short period of time from Texas. And I was like, that's why. That's the reason why.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those. But I mean, they have the benefit of the adoption agency, well, the one that I'm with, and I always tell people that why I love it is because they don't just say, okay, we've walked you through this process, we've given you the baby, that's it, leave us alone. They actually make sure that we have extensive support services afterwards. Nice. So I registered for classes, and during those classes, you realize things that you didn't think about. When you listen to someone else talk, like, I didn't think about that. So the one day we were talking about loss, and I was like, well, I experienced like her birth mother clearly did because she gave her child up for adoption. But I said, wait a minute, I did because I didn't birth the child. And more important, I didn't even think about the birth part as much as the fact that I wasn't present when she was born in the womb. And so I had to deal with that loss. It was just so many things that I hadn't, even though they told us in training, like, okay, your loss may be different from that of the birth parents, but you're going to have one. I'm like, not me. Even despite the training, that doesn't apply to me. No, because again, we are the exception. What I love about platforms like this is that a lot of women, particularly African American women, who are trying to, because again, we can focus on our career and they call us geriatric pregnancy, which is crazy.
Yes.
Everyone I know is like, the what? We're not that. But it's a lot of us. And so we didn't understand the obstacles. I know that when I was told that birds and bees and we had sexual education, no one explained to me about the true story, that this is the amount of eggs you have, this is what happens, all of that. No one ever told me that. And I was like literally 42 or so when I fully understood, like, oh, wait a minute. You mean like you don't put anything else to help add? You don't add more into the bucket? Like, I had no real clue. So the conversation is a great conversation. I'm glad it's ongoing that we're having too. So
Yeah, I and Dr. Cindy, she has stressed this, overstresses my REI. She's like, you have whatever many eggs when you were born. And she said, and at 35, it starts dropping off by 30% every. I was like, what? I said, oh my God. And so yes, men can produce children forever. But women, you only have as many eggs as you're born with, and after they're gone, they're gone. So, which last night we had a really great discussion with the egg bank, and amazing discussion, and it was a lot of people that talked about in the comments about they had used an egg donor. I was like, wow. But yeah, I did not know that. And Eva's on. She said, I didn't find that out until I was pregnant with my last child. I had no clue how all that worked. Exactly. Like, no one said that. And the REI discussion we had Monday, they talked about how this should probably be a part of the health education class.
yes.
Because many women are graduating from school and have no idea that they probably should freeze their eggs if they're on the trajectory to be lawyer, doctor like us, and or anything, shoot, any professional degree that you're a professional profession that you're not worrying about, family until after you get to wherever it is you're trying to get. They need to make sure that they know that they should freeze their eggs. It's cheaper to freeze your eggs younger because you don't need as many cycles to get as large amount of eggs, and you don't need as much medication. And so it's better to do it younger than to wait until we did. So yeah, I think that she's right that they definitely need to include that in the health education courses in high school so that people know and they can plan for that. And especially it's a conversation, obviously, in the Black community, no one ever talks about, because they just assume that, one, they keep telling us, don't get pregnant, go to school. And then they never remind you that you need to, hello, hey, time's running out, by the way. And that's where, we're really missing something, because it's like, man, they should have told us. But Dr. Shirley did something really awesome, and she always forgets to remind me, but I don't forget. So you guys, this is the link. Please go get her book, Mommy Chose Me. Latoya, you should probably buy this book.
Yeah. I like
so she made a really the cutest, well, you know what, I must say, not
You're
as
so
cute
sweet.
as, but pretty cute children's book.
You're so sweet.
No, she was so nice to help me through this because this was a journey. But Mommy Chose Me is her children's book about how Sarai came to be.
Yeah. So I decided to work on that project when I went back to work from maternity leave. It was so hard to leave her, and I had, all the emotions, and I wanted to channel it. And I decided to just write the story, just like, just to it brings me joy just thinking about her, looking at her pictures, hugging her. So that's what it was from. I just wanted to create this thing for her as a gift. So I really thank you for supporting me always with that. I do forget that I write.
Look, I ordered the book. I hadn't even started the journey. I ordered the book. I'm like, I am ordering this book.
You're so sweet.
I have the book in my library. I was like, this is the cutest book ever.
Thank you.
That's gorgeous. I love that.
So I'm so excited that you did.
I'm going to be petty. I'm going to order the book, but I want mine autographed. So Kitty only does autographed books. Sign it, please.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll take a trip over. I have some friends over there, so I'll come through.
So yeah, so that is, and so I put the link in the
Thank
comments,
you.
and hope, let me try one more time because we're getting the error message, but hopefully you guys have that link. So please, please, please get this book. It is adorable. Um, but I think that it's so interesting. Everyone has a different journey. And I'm glad your mom was with you, Latoya, but I was by myself too, Shirley. And let me tell you, when I went to the clinic in Illinois, I won't name it because I didn't stick with them, but I went there, and the last visit I went to was in June of 2019. And at that point, they were like, okay, well, things look great. And, we could get started. And I was like, okay. And so then you go to the next office, which tells you the financials. So she was like, this is how much, and your insurance covers this, this, and this. And I don't know if that's when the reality started sitting in. I couldn't tell you what that lady said. I don't know how much it was. I was like, I called my mother after and was like, I can't remember what she said. And I literally walked. So anybody in Chicago will know, I walked from River North to UIC. It was about 90 degrees in the shade that day. And I bawled and I bawled and I stopped and I started and I stopped and I started and I stopped. I was like, I have failed at myself. I failed at life. What have I done? Why is this my life? Why did I just have to go meet with these people? What did I do wrong? I went to school. They told me go to school. I went to school. I got my degree. I went to med school. I did it. I did all the things. I checked all the boxes. But why am I single? And why do I not have any children? And why am I facing this as my reality?
Mhm.
And when I tell you, it was the longest walk. And it was hot too. I just was walking. I called a few people, but in between, I was just crying and walking because I was just like, I what? Huh? And so after that day, I finally was like, okay, either you're gonna do this or you're not gonna do this, because you have to make a decision. Time is not on our side, so
Yeah.
you got to figure it out. If this is what you're gonna do, then you need to start rolling. And then 2020 happened, and so the pandemic came, and of course they don't consider fertility as essential. So she had to shut down the office, and I said, okay. But we were able to. She did some blood work, virtually. But obviously, where I was and we did virtual. We did blood work. Sent it to her. She's like, okay, I looked at this, I looked at that. You need to start taking this. So I started taking some stuff, and then pelvic MRI, and then last summer I did my first cycle. So yeah, so it's a lot.
Yeah.
I gave my own shots, which wasn't a big deal because I used to do that anyway because of my something else I did. I gave my own shots. It was not a big deal. And I thankfully had zero reactions to any of the hormones. I continued to lose weight, praise the Lord, and I worked out the whole time and I was fine. So I will say towards the end, I was like, I do feel something. And they were like, oh, those are your follicles growing. I was like, oh my God, what is in my body? But that was at the very end. But I was like, I got this. I'm good. And I was like, I can do this. And so now I'm just like, so then the next thing was, I was like, so why do I have to go through this? And so that is why I'm talking about it and I'm open about it, because I figure I had to go through it so somebody else doesn't have to. So if I can share my journey and tell people, please go freeze your eggs. Please think about this at 20 something so that you don't have to look at this, later on like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because if you have the eggs frozen, then, maybe you don't get married till 50, but at least you could still give birth to your child because you have the eggs frozen. So yeah, that's why I was like, well, the Lord must have wanted me to go through this so that I could share and help others. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But I have another friend, and honestly, I think when I was younger, I don't recall, and maybe I just didn't know the story behind some people's families, but I don't recall knowing any single mothers by choice. But now I have a friend that's fostering to adopt on her own. And then I've had your sorority sister, Latoya. I'm sure you know Deborah Farmer. She was on the Ask Dr. Renee show, and she talked about her journey to foster to adopt. And so now I hear all about it. I'm like, oh, wow, it's not, totally uncommon. I'm in several Facebook groups with single moms
I was
by
going to
choice.
mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so now it's just like, oh, and so I feel like now, especially when you said you have a village, Latoya, I think now, even if you are quote unquote by yourself, if you can, join one of these Facebook groups or something, or create your own, you can create your village and you all can help each other out. Um, so Latoya, I know you have your mom, but Shirley, please talk about even the journey with finding someone to help you, because Shirley is a full-time doctor.
Yes, I forget about that. No. So no, my mom was actually very helpful. Like I said, I moved back home in the fall of 2017, and she was there when, for the transfer and all that. She was there with the ultrasound. She was excited about the twins. She actually wanted the triplets. I'm like, yeah, okay, mom. Um, so then I lived at home up until right during the pandemic. I purchased a home in 2020, in May of 2020. But during the time that I was living at home, childcare. So I had a nanny, and I told my mom, I'm like, she works, I work. I'm like, you can't be superwoman, and I wanted to give my child or a certain experience, like I didn't want to stress thing. I just wanted her to be comfortable, wanted to know that she was cared for. And financially, right? We always go back to that, because right now I'm praying for this Lord forgiveness, but financially, it was a toll. Childcare is the most stressful, most expensive thing that I've had to deal with. And then currently, let me see. So we had the nanny for like 2 years. Around two and something, the nanny, she was older too, so she decided to leave us. And then I went the au pair route. So now I have an au pair, and it's been a great experience too. So the main thing for me is securing childcare and having her be stable and having consistency. And then my siblings step in. My brothers watches her sometime, and I have it's hard for me to leave her with others. I still haven't left her with any friends yet, but she stayed with my siblings. Yeah.
Awesome. What about you,
Oh,
Latoya?
because
Oh, go ahead.
no, when I say, because I was just thinking, like, in the house, there's like 8 cameras, guys. So there's four inside, 8 outside. So yeah, yeah.
No,
So yeah,
I,
the
I,
child care. When I said that, I was like, why
understand.
don't I let her? Yeah, because there's no cameras at these. So yeah, so I'm a little protective.
It's the camera thing I'm so for. She has a nanny who's my best friend's mother from church. And so the church motherboard, they come in like, hey, baby. Now I am cautious about who watches her, simply because also there are things that we learned that our parents did with us that would never would kill you.
Please don't start at all.
So I would not take down formulas. So one day, one of my older aunts gave me some pot liquor, which is the greens juice and everything.
Yeah.
And that's how I started getting nourishment. And we're sitting there, we're actually talking with Hermie Hartman. She comes in the restaurant. We're talking. She said, girl, better get that baby some son. You can't give her that. You can't even give the baby water until they're 6 months. She's like, what? And she said, girl, don't leave the baby with somebody else, because what we're going to do? We're going to give them some table food. We're not thinking that it's detrimental. So because I have her confined as that, of course, we're in a pandemic. So my mother, of course, has to be here. She just went to church 3 weeks ago. So she's starting to get the feel like, okay, I see a whole bunch of people, whatever. But now I think she's going through facial recognitions, which is why she had a meltdown today, because I have relatives in town and she's like, I don't know you. Normally she goes to anyone. For me, it's just a safety thing. And it's not to say that anyone would harm my child, but because she's been with me since basically day one. If she's not with my mother or with my aunt or my cousin, I'm like, who? Now I have family members. I know they wouldn't harm her, so I wouldn't have a problem with it. It's just that I'm watching how you move, and I understand that because of your profession, you have to be out in the community or do different things. And so with COVID, I'm like, I can't have that back and forth with my child. Also, well, then she's my baby, so I'm like, there are days when the nanny's here, okay, on the other side of this wall, and I'm working like this for her on my lap. And mother's like, why you paying that woman to be here? If you go, so I was like, oh, she just wants me. She needs me. Mother's like, does she need you as much as you need to want her?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's that. But my support with everyone from the day that I brought her home, because remember, Renee's my friend on Facebook. I didn't even announce. I was canceling plans left and right. I was canceling trips. I was canceling speaking, anything that required that I had to be out or do. I was MIA. People were like, what's going on? And then finally, like about 2 months, or almost 2 months, I posted. People were like, now they haven't seen me because it's been on COVID. People knew I lost weight, but they haven't physically seen me. So technically, I could have had a baby they didn't know. So people calling my other friends like, "Hey, girl, yeah, I just saw Latoya post on Facebook that beautiful baby." Girl, I didn't know she was pregnant. Or people, girl, how you lose all that weight and still get pregnant? I was like, the Lord bless me. That's all I said. The Lord bless me.
And she looked just like her.
I was just like, whatever you want to think about it. But my dad, everyone has just been supportive. They're just like cautious because they're like, we understand that it's a pandemic. If it were not for a pandemic, I know all my family and friends, they're always on the porch. Like there's never probably been a day, and I might be exaggerating, maybe like there's no week I can say has gone by where somebody's not delivering something for Kennedy. Not me, because I'm just Kennedy's mom.
Oh,
it could be food. I'm like,
yeah.
Kennedy can't eat that, so mommy will take that. Clothes, Pampers, whatever it is, they are constantly giving and supporting. And what do you need? And the best part about it is, and they told me, like, if we ever give you too much advice, just say, look, mind your business type of thing. I'm like, no, I want the advice. I want to know how the trajectory you took when Chicago, the public school system is different. How did you go through getting your child here and here and there and there? And how did you get her on the list? And what age should I be doing that? I want to make sure my child is bilingual. And so what age should I be exposing her to that? I'm registering for swim classes. What swim classes? You want that information, somebody who's already been through it, for me. So everyone's been great with information, which has been my biggest thing. But they want to come and touch them like, not yet. No, not yet. whoa, COVID. So that's where we are. But the support network has been great. People who I didn't even think about, honestly, too, once they saw it on Facebook, they was like, girl, if you need a babysitter, I'm here for it. If you need any, I'm like, yeah, you're going to be like my Aunt Sherry. I come back, my child has had 4 wardrobe changes. She's going nowhere. She's in the house. She's propped up on pillows, taking pictures. That never make social media. So the support network is great. And then you get it in places that you never thought you would. And then those who realize I adopted and then were open and comfortable enough with me to say, I'm adopted. Well, my daughter's adopted. I'm like, no, because she looks just like you. And I never, ignorant statement, I just never thought about it. And just also removing that stigma from adoption. So when people always say, oh, what a great favor you did taking Kennedy. I'm like, it wasn't a favor to Kennedy, it was a favor to me. It was a blessing to me. Her birth mother blessed me by giving me Kennedy. She didn't have to choose me. So it's different. And it's something that it's not a Lifetime movie, which is something that they tell us in training. They told us, disregard all those Lifetime movies you've watched. And the birth mothers that were there on the panel said, we're not trying to take our babies back. But you have that paranoia because of, like, as you mentioned, Dr. Renee, so much goes on. You're like, you're not going to come take this baby back. Even my mother to this day, she's like, what something's happened? I'm like, no, Mom, I'm talking about A, B, C, and D. She's like, oh, I heard you. I'm like, because she's always eavesdrop. She miraculously can't hear nothing. She hears anything she wants to hear, miraculous choice through that wall. She'll hear that though. So but it's a beautiful journey. It's just unfortunate. I was blessed to be in a financial position to be able to do my multiple treatments for fertility as well as adopt. And my heart goes out to those where we don't have a healthcare system currently, either provided for by their corporation or even those self-insurance or whatever agencies of government, levels of government, where we don't take it to be a priority to help a woman have a child.
Now,
it's sad.
Now, Shirley, how did it work for you for maternity leave?
Oh, Dr. Renee. So again, you have to be strategic. I wanted to have this baby. I decided to do this right when I was ending fellowship. When I decided to get pregnant and I was in the process of getting pregnant, I've always wanted to obtain my master's in public health. So I was actually looking for programs where I can kind of like go back into training or do some type of thing where I knew that I wouldn't be clinically needed, because no one, well, I was going to say, but really they don't care about me, right? Like I don't feel cared for, loved by my profession. Okay.
Right.
I really don't. So I had to like think and take care of like how I wanted to navigate this. So I went back into training. So I went back into preventive medicine training. And that was basically me working at the New York City Department of Health, like a 9-to-5 kind of schedule. But I'm a hustler. I still did clinical work on the side because I had to pay for this kid. So that was how it worked. So I actually ended up having to take leave early because I had some complications because, that geriatric pregnancies, they come with things. So I was out for like 6 months prior to having her. And then the weekend that I went to go see Michelle Obama, which me and the baby girl, we decided she was going to let me see Michelle. I think that Sunday, I started having headaches. The nephrologist never thought about it. Turned out I was having preeclampsia. So I had her at 37 weeks on the dot. Yeah. So maternity leave became a very long process. So 6 months prior, and then I was 3 months after. So like a good 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very
Mhm.
long.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that, besides insurance, which I have preached and I will keep preaching, Starbucks, you do not have to work full time. You can work part
Yeah.
time and they will cover fertility. You got to do 90 days. They need to pay me. Amazon also, same thing. Amazon, and you can Google and figure out what other companies, but there are a lot of companies. And then, of course, there are 19 mandated states that do have to cover something. Latoya and I happen to reside in Illinois, which is a mandated state. So, but you have to check your insurance. I am
Right.
self-insured because I work for me. And so I picked my plan. Latoya, basically same thing. So she picked her plan. So we picked our plans according to what we wanted to do. And so once I meet my deductible, they cover 80%. So it's like,
Mhm.
perfect, we are done. So the thing is that you want to make sure you talk to HR and you say, hey, I saw, because you can go online and see what the 19 states are. I saw that we're one of the mandated states. This is what I'm trying to do, and make sure that you do that. The other thing is, if you're applying for a job, you need to mention
Yeah.
that this is a coverage that I'm thinking needs to happen, because that could be the difference between this job and this job. Because a
Right.
lot of companies are getting smart and realizing that they need to support their employees every way possible. And so this is one of the ways that they can support their employees, is by making sure there's some sort of fertility coverage in their HR and their benefits plan.
So,
So yeah, you need to make sure you talk to them.
I do employment law. So let me just, not to correct Dr. Renee,
Uh-huh.
let me just finesse what she just said. So when considering the offer of employment, let them know that insurance coverage is very important and critical to your family, and you'd
Right.
like to see the detailed plan. They don't need to know why you need to see it.
Right.
The detailed plan allows you to see, which is what we give our team members. We give you the general, but we also give the detail. Now, the detailed plan is probably like 300-400 pages each, but each team member has something different. They may have a child that has asthma, or a child has diabetes, or the fertility treatment may be an issue. I don't know what it is, but you have it now that you can make an educated decision and see where we fall. Versus you telling them and then they're like, wait a minute, so
Right.
you
Yeah.
just told me that.
Right.
Now that means she's gonna be gone. That she want this and want that.
Yeah.
While it is discrimination, they will not. They won't tell you that's why you didn't get it. They will put that in their mind.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Yeah. So definitely make sure that you read it and read the file. And then if you got the call the insurance company and say, hi, I'm
Yeah.
looking at this and I need to understand, what does this mean and what does this cover, et cetera, et cetera. But make sure that you do, because it can be very costly out of pocket, but there are ways to get it covered. And then even if your insurance, I think, doesn't cover, I've just recently learned that you can actually get some sort of letter from your from the egg bank, the sperm bank, whatever, and submit that, and you might be able to get reimbursed. Some companies will even reimburse you after you went through the treatments. And there was another thing that I forgot.
Even the financial offices at your REI, because I would always call them
Oh
whenever
yeah,
I switched jobs and like tell them what insurance I had to kind of like get the breakdown, especially when I told you I wanted to have a second child. And I was in between jobs at that time. So I called them and I said, please send me the breakdown of what the cost would be.
yeah, and they'll work with you. Usually they have financing people as well, and also look at your HSA and make sure that your FSA and whatever, and your your health savings plan, look at that, because that money might be able to be used. And then even if you're self-insured, you could actually get yourself an FSA and HSA as well. So make sure you look at all the options to figure it out. And even now, some companies offer a paternity leave.
Yes.
So so that can be helpful if it's if you know you're going to need help and your husband needs to take off too, then that's a great thing too. And then also be very careful that if his insurance is the one that has the fertility plan, make sure you're on it before you guys decide to start treatment, because if you're not, you can't use his benefits for your treatments. So that's something else to think about, because not everyone's wives, husbands, or whatever partners are on their same on each other's insurance. So you have to think about that too. So so yeah, it's a lot, but it's nothing. You guys would do it again, right?
I would
Heartbeat.
definitely,
Heartbeat. Yeah.
definitely do it again. Someone said, "Well, have you gotten used to motherhood?" I said, "You know what? I watch her, and she's probably like, oh God, she's back in my face again." And you're in awe, like it's something that you've wanted all your life, and you're still sort of processing. But this is happening. It's here. It's not like a pair of shoes I tried on and say, I don't like these and send this back. This is it. And it's a beautiful thing. And that's the what I want for any woman who wants it. You know, like I was having a conversation with a friend and she said, well, if I had to choose, not that I would want to choose, but if I had to choose, I couldn't go without being a wife, but I could go without being a mother. I knew the coin was flipped. And I said, I don't want to not be married, but if I had to choose, I can't go without being a mother. However motherhood was going to happen for me, I knew that I wanted it. And I forgot marriage and go. I was okay with that.
I'm with you. Same.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, I said, I'll figure that out, but I can definitely, I just need to make sure that I do exactly what I want to do, and this is what I want to do. Yeah. I was like that, whatever, but I will have children. That's that.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful stories, and congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
And please, everyone, let me put the banner up one more time. Go and get her book. I'm going to put the link in the comments, in the chat, in the post as well. So you can just click in there. But go get her book. It is adorable, I'm telling you. And if you look up on Amazon her name, you will see the book. If you don't want to copy that whole thing, hold on. I'm going to, there. So if you just put her name, you'll see it. Mommy Chose Me. It is adorable. But thank you so much, ladies. And I will see you guys tomorrow, Black Doctor, the Minority Health Summit, 12 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. 4 o'clock is the infertility discussion with Walgreens, talking about the pharmaceuticals. We have a pharmacist on that's going to talk about the pharmaceuticals, because there is a lot of drugs involved with this process. And then next month, May, is Allergy Awareness Month, Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month, which is very near and dear to my heart for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And so we have a really, really, really awesome discussion next Thursday on 6 o'clock on my usual time with Black Doctor that is going to be really interesting about allergies. So I hope you guys don't miss it. And of course, you can follow me everywhere at Ask Dr. Renee. Where can people follow you, Shirley?
I'm at SLeon MD on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
LaToya?
I am not an Instagram or Twitter person. I feel so old with that. I'm like, what? LaToya M. Dixon on Facebook, though.
But yeah, so everyone, see you guys later. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Very
day.
nice meeting you.